people are destroyed by Lashon Hara? The one who says it, the one that it's said about, and the one who hears it. And I said, wow, why is it like quite so bad? So one of my rabbis from Eish Torah, Rabbi Nassan Weiss, I heard him say the following thing. He gave the following illustration. He says, imagine you're at work in the middle of a meeting, and there's a young woman in the meeting that she gives a presentation. And I'm making up a name for her, let's call her Deborah. Right, and after the meeting is over, right, two different groups of people walk away. And one of them, guy turns to his buddy and says, wow, that Deborah, such a go-getter. She was so enthusiastic, so well prepared, she explained everything. Fantastic. And then the second group, as they're walking away, guy turns to his buddy and says, man, that Deborah, what a bossy girl, right? She thinks she knows everything, right? She's trying to explain to us, like, our own field, right? So which one was it? Well, it can't be both. It is what they decided it was, right? The experience they had, the rabbi said. Let me give you another. It's a Pirkei Avos says that there are things. We see this a few places in the rabbi. There are things that take someone out of the world. They say kas kavod and kina, right? Anger, desire for honor, and jealousy takes a person out of the world. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean that literally, like we're just joking about the moon. We're joking about saying Kiddush Lavana if you're on the moon. As if you have to make Kiddush Adama. Right? So if you're... Thank you for laughing. I appreciate that. So it wasn't just the guys. You can't... Not out of the physical world. It's like, oh, I'm jealous and now I'm on Mars. Oh, I'm angry and now I'm on Jupiter. Obviously, it doesn't mean that. It means the social world, the world that's created, because there's an objective physical reality we call the world, but there's also the world that's created by the infinite connections between human beings. And that's the world we're talking about, called the social world, the connected world, the human world. So whether or not she was a bossy person and, controlling and whatever, or she was well prepared and confident and executed it perfectly, that world is determined by the perception, focus, and ultimately speech. That's why it's Lashon Hara, evil speech, of the people that saw it. So we can take those ideas and apply them very powerfully to marriage as well. And this is something, one of the things that I struggle with, a specific area, one very, very specific area, about perspective, about focus, about how you interpret an event or something somebody said or something somebody did. And it's something, I've been struggling for years to try not to take things as, a personal attack. Now, why would I not want to take it as a personal attack? Well, first of all, if I laid it out on a whiteboard, my relationship with my wife, do I think she's actually personally attacking me? Probably not. You never know, right? But probably not, right? We have a good relationship. We love each other. I know she wants the best. She can't handle the mushy stuff, so she has to react negatively whenever I say something positive. It's fine. We're married over 20 years. We're good. So, it's something where if... Dr. Faye just asked me for the link. So it's something where she doesn't mean it negatively, but my own personal perspective and reaction to it sometimes is, I feel like I'm being attacked. Now, what winds up happening is the universe I've created because of my perspective and because how I reacted to it, is I've created a universe where I'm being attacked, right? I'm now living in a world where I'm under attack, right? And that's not good for a relationship. If I could say, okay, for a myriad of reasons, there's an issue that's happening right now, and there's upsetness that's happening right now, but it's not personal. I'm not being attacked. I'm not being denigrated. I'm not being abused. I'm not being, called anything in particularly bad. I'm not being lowered. I'm not being disrespected. None of those things are real. It's a completely external for me. Here's an issue. Now I can take it as, it's not my problem. It's a problem, right? Let's deal with this problem together the best way that we can. But it's not me. It's not my issue, right? It's not me. It's you. No. Right? Now, and this happens. The place I saw this a couple of years ago. I know Rabbi Rand, Dr. Faye's brother, who's in Israel. He mentioned the Gottman Institute, and I was very excited when he mentioned it because I'm a giant fan of the Gottmans. And in their Sound Relationship House, which is their kind of theory and structure on how to build the best marriages, one of the concepts is positive perspective, which I've seen somewhere else called positive sentiment override. It's the same thing, it just has different names depending if it's in psychology. So what does it mean? I like positive sentiment override actually even more than positive perspective. When something happens, there's an event. One of my rabbis, Rabbi Yom Tov Glazer at Aish Torah, he says, everything in the universe is parv. Right? Everything in the universe is parv. You then create what its interpretation is. It's an event, something happened. Now you make it into something positive, negative, or whatever. And so, positive sentiment override, the way that it works is when your spouse says something, does something, acts in some way, there's some situation, you've trained yourself and you've developed the habit that you will automatically interpret it in a positive way. That's what you want to be. You want to be automatically interpreting. Let's say, you come home and your spouse yells at you. Literally, you open the door and they yell at you. How could you possibly interpret that in a positive way? Well, it's not so hard. I know she loves me. I know she means well. I know, so something must be quite challenging and difficult for her happening. And she loves me so much that she trusts me enough to let me know there's a problem. She has a sense of security. She has a sense of safety that's so amazing, right? She's not afraid to speak to me in a way to let me know that there's a problem. How many people do we know, maybe we've met people, that they feel like they're walking on eggshells with their spouse? They feel like they can't say anything or do anything because they're afraid they're going to be getting on the phone with their lawyer 2 seconds later, the moment they say something, right? Or they're going to go into their room and cry. They're not divorce lawyers. You're not a divorce lawyer, are you? They're not divorce lawyers.
Even worse.
Trust me, there are worse things to be living with a lawyer. One of them is probably a rabbi. So anyway. Now, if you have a husband who's a rabbi and a lawyer, good luck. All right. So this idea of positive. Now, the opposite, you can see just how powerful and important this is, because the opposite, the negative perspective or negative sentiment override, is that no matter what the other person does, you interpret it badly. Which means, I'm reminded of this story where this guy, he had a wife who was horrendous. She was just the worst. She treated him with disrespect. She cooked him only food he hated. Like, she went out of her way to make him miserable. And he went to his rabbi. He said, "Rabbi, my wife is just the worst. What can I do?" And the rabbi said, there's a mystical tradition that if your rabbi is that bad, you don't have to go to Gehenna after you die, because you've already lived there while you're alive.
Your wife was that bad.
What'd I say?
If your rabbi.
If your rabbi is that bad?
Yeah, you said
I'm sorry, rabbis who are watching. Maybe it was a Freudian slip. Okay. If your wife is that bad, you don't have to go to hell because you've already been there your whole life. So you don't have to go to another one afterwards. Right? So he came back, and his wife said something to him, and he was just like, "This is great. I don't have to go to Gehenna. Like, I have a Gehenna at a jail free card, like, it's great." And then after a couple of days of this, she changed. She started being nice to him. She started cooking him the food he liked, and he thought, "Wow, this is incredible. Is she changing? Is she transforming?" And then after a while, he's like, "Wow, you really have changed." And she turns to him and she goes, "I spoke to your rabbi, and I'll be damned if you don't go to hell because of me." So, you thought it was going to be one of those great stories where she changes? No. Anyway. So you can imagine the scenario. You okay, guys? So you can imagine the scenario. she hears all my jokes 1,000 times and laughs every time. Baruch Hashem. So
It's funny every time.
yeah, or you should see her at the
I'm not
class I gave on
expecting
Wednesday night in the city. She almost fell over. Anyway, so you can imagine, you come, your wife serves you breakfast in bed, right? And if you have a negative sentiment override, what do we do? Like, what do you want? Like, what are you trying to get? Like, you suspect even the good acts because you automatically interpret even what they do that's good as being something selfish and self-serving, right? Can you imagine living in that way? That's such misery. And just imagine the opposite. How amazing and powerful, wonderful, and great your relationship will be if we can try to. So you see that the idea of perspective, you can't change a physical reality. I'm not one of those people who thinks that I think this is a chair, now it becomes a chair. No, it's a table, it's a table, it's a table. There's a physical reality. But interpersonal reality is incredibly dependent on focus, perception, and interpretation. And there's also a self-fulfilling prophecy part of this. When you treat a person in a certain positive way, even if it wasn't objectively what they were doing, joking aside, it does change people. It does change the relationship. So, the only thing I always love people, they finish a talk and they go, I want to give you a blessing. I can't bless you. I have the power to bless you. Go bless yourself.
How do we do that?
Look at yourself at the mirror.
There you go. What I'll say is I pray to Hashem that I myself learn this lesson, and if anyone else can get any benefit from it, then all the better for all of us. Thank you. I appreciate you listening for a few minutes.
Babe, I learned about this in relationship science also.
Nice.
That's how much I'm learning.
Honey, I don't understand what you're saying.
Sometimes things are objectively bad. He's abusive. It's not a good thing to switch it
Can I
and
edit it?
You want to add something in? An addendum?
Saying if you want to add something.
No,
Turn the camera around now.
no.
Okay, so my wife is. If I understand my wife's
Should I
question,
add, should I add into it?
no, you don't.
You're
Need to.
sparkling.
I will.
If I
No.
you can. I don't
It
care.
sounds like if you're constantly turning things positive,
Right.
things that are objectively bad, sometimes then you internalize it and think it's
It might be.
either your fault, but not even that. You're excusing abuse.
So I wouldn't go so far to say as that's the way I'm making it sound.
Okay.
I would say that is an interpretation somebody could walk away with, and I'm happy you brought it up. That's not what you should walk away with. If a person is being, so here's the thing: if you're actually being abused, seek help. Right? We're not saying to. That's a good question. And unfortunately, sometimes people can't tell the difference. And either way, sometimes people are being abused, they don't realize it.
They're not.
And sometimes people are not being abused, and they think that you're abusing me. Like, I'm not abusing you, right? And maybe you're not. Right?
How do
So
you know the difference?
sometimes it's obvious. My guess is 99% of the time, it's obvious abuse, right? There's a 1%. No, you don't agree?
I would not agree. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
don't want to get into a debate on camera.
When it's
You're not on camera.
No, when it's happening to you, it's not obvious
It's not
99% of the time, but looking in, a lot of times it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying whether or not someone is being abused, I think 99% of the time is obviously true.
But
not to
whenever you're in the
myself.
situation, how do you
Most
tell?
people-
So,
No.
okay, I hear.
There
What
are
about-
lots of good books to read about it. if
Like
you
what?
like to.
What is I took a class with Shalom Task Force and we agreed that there's one overarching factor that will determine between an unhealthy or dysfunctional relationship versus abusive.
Right.
And there is an
like the
underlying
biggest
element
biggest,
of
like-
fear between the person who's being abused. If
Right.
you have a legitimate fear or reaction of something.
What level of fear, though? Because I know people, for example.
Well, there's a difference between fear of I'm afraid I'm going to hurt someone's feelings because I don't want to hurt their feelings versus I'm afraid of what the consequences are of what I will do.
But even that has levels, right? Because I can imagine, I had a conversation with a person
Yeah.
where it's like, the phone rings and they look, it's their wife, and they're like they don't want to pick up.
That's not scared.
They don't want to pick
But
up.
but they are. They don't want. They're like, what is she gonna do? She's gonna yell at me. They're afraid. They're afraid.
Well, that is a sign of potential emotional
So, but
abuse.
what
But
level?
that's not
right?
also true because
Exactly.
financial abuse is not necessarily fear, but it's control.
But there's
Control
also-
is the most
but-
important
But
part
that's also
of any
but there is an
abusive
element of fear
relationship.
that exists within financial abuse, within religious abuse, within all of those. There's an element of fear.
And to clarify my answer to my wife's question, I am not at all justifying abusive relationship. If it's abuse, you need help, or you need to get out, or both. I'm saying where it's not actually abuse, but you're interpreting it poorly. That's what we need to work on. We need to switch the interpretation.
Also, to be clear, I'm not abusive. I don't walk in. he
Why
doesn't
would
leave the house.
what?
Because if you said that and then you said my wife yelled at me, and I'm
I didn't
like,
say that
yell at
you. I did not say you yelled at me. Now you're interpreting what I'm saying.
You said someone answered the
Robert's
phone.
No, she's saying it's open to
He said,
interpretation.
he's mentioned when I come home and my wife comes home and starts yelling at me and I don't.
I didn't mention you at all.
It was theoretical.
It was it was
Hypothetical.
Just
Is it theoretical
If you were
marriage?
to-
what I do is things like when like they'll come home with grocery and he got the wrong thing and I'm like, oh,
Totally
she's the wrong thing. And then he says, and then he takes it personally. I'm like, I didn't tell you which company to get. Why are you taking it personally that I'm upset that it's the wrong thing? It's not like things like that. I'm not upset at you. I could be upset at a
Okay,
situation
can
and not.
you send that to me so I can send it to Dr. Fang?
Like
Or I can
I
send it
could
to
be